Welcome, and thank you so much for clicking on my video. Today, we are going to give you those daily expected moves, which they are at some very interesting levels for tomorrow. And if you did not notice, volatility actually on Friday was up by more than 10%, which means that tomorrow we do have an 85% chance to see some kind of pullback, some kind of down day for the SPY. Is this some kind of trap? We'll go over that in a moment as we get into those shorter time frames. But also, volatility was down by another 12% today, which tells us that there is another 85% chance for a down day for the SPY tomorrow and on Wednesday. So we're going to get into a lot in this video. We're going to give you guys some of those daily expected moves, but can we say thank you and maybe give a like to the channel for this past weekend's video, because as everyone was saying, stock market crash, as everyone was begging for it, we were looking at other things, and we're going to talk about those things first. Let's get into it. There's a few things we did over the weekend, and I want to be like, oh yeah, just go see the video if you want to check it out. But let's just go over them. Let's not waste your time. You have to go watch another 15-minute video or something. Let's really take your time into consideration. Just say, why weren't we talking about a stock market crash? Well, we said 68% probability that you're not going to crash, pretty much, because of our monthly expected moves. This is where people really make wrong decisions. We talk about decision making around this yellow line all the time, and every single week we'll talk about it around these purple ones. So I wanted to point that out. A lot of people saying, but Lucas, your level broke that you said you'd pay attention to, but what was the thing that was said around here? I need to see that right shoulder. And overall, I need this market to show me a divergence or show me a daily lower high at this point. And I don't think I have seen that yet. And we'll talk about that as we get into the Qs. We even pulled up the Bollinger Bands, right? We were just like, hey, the Bollinger Bands. Now, we didn't necessarily say it this way, but one thing that you want to look for as you get to the bottom side of a Bollinger Band is that tag of the 5-day. Look at this one. We hit the bottom side, you tag the 5-day, then you go back to the bear side. As of right now, you're at that bottom side at the monthly expected move. So we were saying, hey, at least test the 5, maybe go up to this level and make a lower high. So those are all the things, all the reasons that we were really pointing out a lot of these things over the weekend. And I did notice everyone begging for a stock market crash. So I wanted to pull up something that we pointed out this weekend. This is the Fear and Greed Index. We have been in a state of fear and almost extreme fear for the past month. And we have barely seen price drop. If you really think about being in extreme fear for almost 30 days, you should be seeing some massive selling. But the truth here is, guys, that 10% of people 10% of people in the world own 93, 92%, 91%, 90% of the stock market. So if they are not seeing a reason to sell, if they are not deciding to sell, if they say this isn't the top, then it isn't. So we are looking for the signs that they are looking for those type of decision making. The other thing is, I do think that it's funny that everyone's thinking of a stock market crash, talking about a stock market crash, and even searching for a stock market crash recently. Everyone was begging for a stock market crash. Will it happen? We'll have to see in the next few trading sessions. That overall was Google Trends. I did pull that up just to show you how people are searching more and more for stock market crash. So it really is creeping in their brain. Instead, do your homework, do the research, because these types of things will help you a lot more. And so now we're going to go into the shorter time frames, because if this daily chart, we need to do our homework in here, because if this daily chart turns to the upside, well, then we actually could be breaking through to see an upward move throughout December. So let's check it out. Now, we're going to go back into the daily chart over for the Qs, but I just wanted to show all of those things off. Showing all of those things off what had nothing to do with the news, had nothing to do with anything. It's just, hey, look, this is the options level that is for this month. People are getting overzealous. And the other thing was, we had reversal signals, right? We were showing off how the RSI had all these divergences down here, and everyone was getting bearish. And we were like, well, you can get bearish, but is this the best time? Or would you rather see a roll? So let's get into the 2-hour chart here. We do see 674.73 to the upside. Notice that it is overlapping the weekly expected move right at the 5-day moving average. And then we see 662.73. You have a very similar amount of implied volatility going into tomorrow that you had today. So just keep that in mind. You can see more of the same to get to these levels. Why? Because if you notice, they are overlapping. These levels, this is a 68% zone, and this is the 68% zone for tomorrow. So you have the weekly and the daily. But when they're overlapping, these levels act like magnets. So if you're overlapping in an area, then there is probably a good concentration there. So that is something to keep in mind for tomorrow, for the next couple of sessions. Hey, if I do see that line up by each other at 674.70, 674.73, hey, then those levels can act like magnets. So for the bull side, let's go over that really quickly because the bear side is simple. The 2-hour rolls right now in negative territory, you might actually have yourself a stock market crash. And you do have an 85% chance for a down day tomorrow. But I am telling you, with all the fear in this move to the downside, I am not seeing it. And I have not seen the topping signal for the Qs that I'm looking for. And I will mention that in a moment. So stick with me here. So the bear side, simple. 2-hour cross is down, test the low, go make a new one. That means you're breaking through the monthly expected move, which means you can see something crazy. A 32% moment is much crazier than a 68% moment. Let me tell you that. But for the time being, I think the bulls really want to see something interesting here, which would be what? I think the bulls would like to see a breakthrough of this level of about 675.70. I think they would like to break through those levels. You can see almost like a neckline right up here. And if they saw some kind of dump to take care of this gap, people would really say, oh, there's the right shoulder, but I'm going to be prepared. And I think it is risky to be a right shoulder, but I'm going to be prepared if that turns back up because I don't think a lot of people are paying attention to the inverse of what everyone else wants to see. Everyone else wants to see this. Left head, right shoulder. We see that. We can understand it. We can react to it. But then we also need to react if we see this little inverse head and shoulders in the opposite direction, especially if the 2-hour is able to go into positive territory. And we will keep updating you on this throughout this entire week. Throughout the entire Thanksgiving week, I will be updating you on this. But I would be looking for some kind of move to gravitate to 674, 73, maybe even tomorrow, but maybe by Wednesday. But when we tag those levels, if we're able to break through this, see if you find some kind of dump to really convince people it's a trap. Now, here's the thing about it, why I'm saying it's a trap, because the 30-minute has no weakness here. There is no weakness. There is no overbought conditions. This easily can just continue, get to that level, then pull back. If this situation were to happen, this would be extremely positive, and everyone would be saying crash, and all that happens is by the center line, you curl up into positive territory. So this is something critical to pay attention to. If you are looking for some kind of crash, then you would be looking out for some kind of divergence at this level, or I would think more likely some kind of lower high. So be looking for that lower high. Some kind of rejection of this move would be important. I want to say this. I'm going to put my skin out there to the YouTube people who always comment mean things, and then I see a big bounce on a Monday where they say we're going to crash, and I'm pretty happy. But hey, if you guys want to be mean in there, that's cool with me. But I'm going to say this for the YouTube people. I think that we are actually going to go in the upward direction after all is said and done. And if the market proves that, then I'll be risking money behind it at that point. So let me go over to the Qs and check out some stuff with you. I'm overall going over this in a way that is giving both sides because I do believe we're in an area where signals could prove to go in either direction. But that doesn't mean that I don't think we're going in the upward direction because of one thing from the Qs. Let's go check it out. Now, that one thing is not on the 30-minute chart. It is not on the 2-hour chart. It is actually on the daily chart. Now, a lot of people were discussing crash and things like that. I would like to say even the most sporadic crashes had a lower high, had some kind of divergence. We can go over that maybe over the weekend, this weekend, so make sure you're subscribed. But the thing is, this daily, right by the center line, and what do we see? We saw that the Qs did not give us a divergence on the MACD. They give us a flat on the RSI. And yeah, we've broken this level. If we go see a lower high, that can be a topping signal. That is pretty good for the Qs. But if we go see a divergence, that can be a topping signal. But we haven't seen either of those things. This is where people go outside of the monthly expected move and they try to call a crash before a crash actually happens. The rich people allow their friends to get out of positions, guys. It just happens. You're always going to retest levels before dropping further. Even something like the COVID crash, you had topping signals. Even something like the 2008 crash, you had topping signals. You had these type of things. You had a divergence or a lower high. So I just wanted to mention that really quickly here before we go into the 2-hour chart. And you notice what? We're already up by that weekly expected move. Wow, what a move today from the Qs. For tomorrow, 612.48 to the upside, 597.84. So we have a 32% chance to close the week down in these areas below this yellow line. We have a 68% chance to close above that line, and we'll see if that is able to take place. But we do know a few things. We know that volatility has an 85% probability for a down day for markets. Okay, we'll go over that in a moment, but we do see something very interesting here, which is the bear side. The bear side is this is still negative. We're rejecting off of certain levels, right? If we reject from those levels and curl down, test the lows, go make a new one, that's where you can see something crazy. But if you keep heading to the upside, you break through this very obvious level that happens to be where your daily expected move is 612.48. You break through that level, everyone gets euphoric and says, maybe this market's coming back. Bears get really excited because you come to that downside, and you want to treat this move very carefully. This can be the lower high at that point. But if that curls back to the upside, if that creates the inverse head and shoulders, I would really be watching out in the other direction. There is a bull way, there is a bear way. We discussed this over the weekend. Charts are dynamic. They are always changing. So you should always be changing as a stock trader, as a trader in some way, as someone who buys and sells things. You should be dynamic because the price action is always going to be dynamic. So these are all things to react to. And you can tell from the 30-minute chart that, do I have any reason to react to some kind of massive downside move tomorrow? According to the 30-minute chart, no. According to the 30-minute chart, we're just seeing a positive move in positive territory. It's very likely to, when you do see a pullback with this first move, whether it happens now, whether it happens up in these areas after some kind of gap tomorrow or something, we can pull back down in those areas. Guess what will happen if we do that kind of look? You're going to be by the center line, curling up into positive territory. While everyone's talking about a stock market crash, stock market crash, stock market crash, you see it curl up and you go, ooh, we're at the monthly expected move, curling up, right as December's beginning and we're about to get fresh ones. All right, maybe we're not going to stock market crash. Maybe we're actually going to see some kind of attempt at an upward move for December. And that's what we're watching for. We're really just watching things back and forth, making sure that things are going okay. If you really want things to go to the downside, you need to see a potential divergence at this level, right? Some kind of fake out, or you would want to see some kind of lower high. I think a lower high would really be the best thing to pay attention to. Why? Because that would mean that you are actually curling back down into negative territory. So that's how I see things for the Qs, and I hope that it is able to help you in some way. Let's go over volatility because that is saying some big things from the percentages. We do see something very interesting, right? Friday, here's Friday. You notice that we were down by 11.32%. That means that today we had an 85% chance, and tomorrow we have an 85% chance for a down day in the SPY. That being said, we just got another up day for the SPY, which caused the VIX to go down by 12.43%. That tells us that tomorrow we kind of have an overlapping, but that would say the next two trading sessions, you have an 85% chance to see an up day for volatility, a down day for the SPY. So just be aware of that. If things are extremely positive for the SPY, you look for pullbacks. You don't assume that this is going to be some kind of mega crash when everyone is begging for it to be a mega crash. Now, we do see from the 2-hour chart, what signals were we pointing out here for volatility, especially over the weekend? 2-hour divergence. 2-hour divergence on your MACD, 2-hour triple divergence on your RSI at the same time. This is a big deal. This means that the daily chart for volatility could be reversing here. Do you see why I have an argument to say, I'm kind of leaning towards that bull side at this point because I have more signals suggesting that the bull side's going to start up again than the bear side's going to see some kind of crash. I just wanted to point that out. Even with the weekly crossover, you got to see what's going on inside those weeks, okay? So what would be said here is if the 2-hour curls up, where is it? Positive territory, right? So the 2-hour curls up, risky business, risky, 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 but is the 30-minute giving us any kind of hint to say, hey, that 2-hour is going to really get going here? No, as of right now, it is not. It is not telling us those things. So what would we look for if we're going to see a bigger move in volatility? We would look for a divergence from the 30-minute. We would look for a higher low from the 30-minute. And you notice that this kind of coincides with Wednesday morning. So this tells us something, right? And I don't want to go too much more into volatility because I don't want to start throwing a bunch of things out there. But if the timing of this is right, if the timing of this, and we actually see a higher low or we see a divergence from the 30-minute chart, you notice that would add up to about Wednesday morning. This would mean that for tomorrow, we could see some kind of upward move to get to that level that's acting like a magnet. We could even break through that level potentially by the end of the day. We could just ride this thing up throughout most of the day. And then right at the end of the day, when we start to say, oh yeah, this is going to be to the upside, we're outside of the 68% zone. We're starting to see something crazy and we see a pull down. This is where the 85% chance for a down day comes in for volatility. Then we could curl back to the upside and show that potential structure for the head and shoulders to really fake people out as they think stock market crash is going to take place. So we will pay attention to these things very critically. These are all things that are very high potential to happen. We're overall just discussing how these things would like to move. As of right now, the 30-minute is in a position to go higher. So I think it is very, very probable that we are more likely to test 674.73 before we are actually going to go down to like the weekly expected move of 643.36. Now, we will update these things as it stands. If it is during market hours, then we will update you over on Patreon. But we went over a lot in this video. So if you're watching till the end of the video, I thank you so much for doing that. And it looks like you are really dedicated to trying to get some information, maybe to learn a little bit more about this stuff. This is around Black Friday. This is our big sale every single year. So if you've been following for a long time, you've been following for a short time, check out that course that's down in the description, the full technical analysis course. It is only going to cost you $100. It is 90% off. I always do this at the end of the year for like November, maybe even December. We're going to do it into the end of the year. If you would like to get that course, it is only going to be $100. It will tell you everything you need to know about divergence. It will teach you about these indicators. It will teach you about these monthly expected moves, what kind of decisions. And we even have a portion in there that says, hey, we know stocks are dynamic. We know that every move from the stock market is not 100%. So you always have to have the reasons to get into a trade, but the plan for if things go wrong. So those are all the types of things that you will learn in there. And there is so much more. We can't go over it just in the end of this video, but I thank you so much for watching this video. And I hope that this video was helpful to you. And I hope that you guys have a great trading session tomorrow. And I'll see you tomorrow. All right. Peace out.